All right, any look behind the curtain of Wall Street is not going to be pretty, but this next story is just plain ugly. And James O'Shea's The Deal from Hell, How Moguls and Wall Street Plundered Great American Newspapers. He dives deep into the collapse of the Times-Mirror-Tribune merger, and the ripple effect felt throughout the business of journalism. Jim joins us now from our Chicago bureau. And Jim, welcome to Street Smart. You don't mince your words there with the title, Jim.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So let's talk. I mean, a lot of people are blaming Wall Street for the collapse of just about everything. Tell us just what they had to do with the plundering of American newspapers.
Well, you know, I wrote this book because I was concerned about the collapse of newspapers and the failure of newspapers, and explaining the unique role that they play in a democracy and the responsibility they have for getting information to citizens. And instead of writing a treatise or an academic essay, I decided to tell the story of these two companies, one which owns the Chicago Tribune and one which owned the LA Times, storied institutions with larger-than-life figures. And by chronicling this collapse, you can kind of tell the larger story, sort of a microcosm of the collapse of the newspaper industry and kind of the implications that that has. And in any story like that, where you have a merger and you have all these deals going on, necessarily you will have Wall Street involved. And so there was no way to avoid not getting into the role of investment bankers in it.
Yeah, it's not just about the death of the newspaper industry, or at least the metamorphosis of that industry, but really about Wall Street. And we've been hearing so many things about investment banks misleading clients lately. You encountered memos or emails from J.P. Morgan bankers who knew this was the deal from hell and still wanted to do it for, obviously, the fees that they got.
Well, that's true. I mean, I think there was a lot of skepticism about it, and yet, you know, that everybody wanted the deal to get done because there were large fees involved, and of course, one of their big clients, Sam Zell, wanted the deal done. And when a big client wants to get something done, and when there's hundreds of millions of dollars in fees involved, the deals have a tendency to get done.
What about the newspaper industry here? Because you ran the LA Times. People talk about whether or not this is a viable business anymore. Everybody can get news sort of for free or for very little on the computer, on the iPad. Is the newspaper business still a viable business? Can it be done? And who's doing it right?
I think it can be done. My concern is this: it's not that you're not going to have newspapers. You know, my concern is you won't have journalism. I think, you know, newspapers that deliver quality journalism will be able to survive and give that journalism to their clients, because the free information is not worth as much, and that's why it's free. But if you have a situation in which everybody that can pay $2 a day for the New York Times, or $6 or Sunday, or pay $18,000 or $20,000 for a Bloomberg machine, they're going to get good news. They're going to get better news than they probably ever got. But the beauty of a newspaper was, for 75 cents or less than the price of a cup of coffee, you would deliver the same information to rich and poor every day, right to their doorstep. And I think that's what's under threat. Will you end up with a situation where the rich get the news and all the news they want, and the poor are left to scramble for themselves with stuff that's free but isn't really very valuable?
Jim, just 10 seconds here. Who's doing the best job in your opinion?
Well, I think the Atlantic magazine's doing a good job. I think the Guardian newspaper in London's doing a good job. And I think the New York Times is really doing some spectacular experimentation, both in print and online.
Got it. Jim, thanks so much for joining us. Jim O'Shea.